Alright. You want to get rid of your sexuality? Well, why don't you step on up and stand at the gap and enter this multi-dimensional dungeon chat. Take it away. Oh, actually, hold on. Oh, that's good. That's good. It's all good. Yeah, you got it.
Love One Out, an ex-gays multi-user dungeon about overcoming sin and sexuality. By Zondervan Software and Exodus International. With enough prayer, Crisco will soon be solely for baking again. Dr. Christopher Ewan, Moody Bible Institute. Choose your LGBT archetype. Type help for a listing of archetypes, attributes, and commands. The sun beat down on you, heating your pastel dress uniform as you walked down a familiar stretch of Hollywood. It was day 3 of your street ministry, a day early in your mission to tend to the desperate transients and lost souls that gravitated toward the city's endless entertainment. Your pamphlets felt as light as the day they were printed. The quality glossy stock and full-color portraits of seemingly happy reformed couples on nearly every page. As you stopped to let a tourist pass, a striking woman with hair almost as pink as the setting sun brushed past your shoulder. The scent of patchouli and something unfamiliar, vaguely electric, filled your nostrils for the briefest of moments, enough to distract you as you turned the corner. On the street, the usual throngs of paparazzi hoping to catch a glimpse of a drunken celebrity were gone. Instead, dozens of hunched, coughing forms lining the walls and alleyways. They wore tattered, dirty clothes and faded punk rock band shirts and floral dresses. As the shock set in, a trio of muscular men in crisp white polo shirts approached, moving with practiced efficiency through the crowd. Fresh is coming in again. One muttered, not bothering to look at you as they spread out. Let's try to keep the flow moving today. They've got cameras on us. You type help. Welcome to Logan Out V2, 0NC19 Old Manifeeve. Type help archetypes for selection of starting characters. Type help attributes for breakdown of your attributes. Type help commands for an exhaustive list of available actions. Current user, unassigned. You see no change in the world around you. The huddled masses remain, and the workers in their clean polos continue to shepherd them along the grimy sidewalk. One of them glances your way, a flicker of professional curiosity in his eyes as he notices your clean clothes and the stack of pamphlets tucked under your arm. You with Exodus? He calls out, his voice rough. They said you people were coming. Stick to the east side of the street. We're running intake on the west. Don't want to get the new arrivals confused. He points a thumb toward the far curb, before turning back to help a coughing woman to her feet and guiding her forward. The strange, electric tang in air seems to get stronger the closer you get to the desperate crowds of people. You type help archetypes. Unavailable archetype list. One reparative therapist, a fully licensed professional dedicated to guiding the afflicted away from their sinful compulsions. Starts with a higher skill stat, but lower charisma. Too devout Christian. A layperson who has dedicated their life to ministry. They believe all are capable of change. Balanced skill and spirituality, but lower stamina. former homosexual, a person who has successfully navigated their journey out of homosexuality and now works as an ambassador. High charisma and spirituality, but lower physique. For the programmer, a radical activist dedicated to destroying queer culture wherever it festers. High physique and skill, but low spirituality, and may frighten some NPCs. 5 drag queen, a performer whose flamboyant art is a celebrated cornerstone of their community. The familiar text scrolls across your mental view, unchanged from your last review. Your focus snaps back to the street as a sudden, rattling cough erupts from a man leaning against the wall near you. He slides down to the ground, clutching a tattered jacket around himself. As the 2 polo-shirted men approach him, their movements become less like helping a person and more like handling a difficult package. You choose Pick 6 Horny Youth Pastor. The command line flashes, text scrolling at a speed that belies the stillness of the scene around you. Invalid selection. Then a new line appears, this one seeming to glow with a faint, admonishing light. There is no such archetype. Chosen lifestyles are not toys for amusement. Must choose from artifice, devout Christian, former homosexual, deprogrammer, drag queen, current user, unassigned. The world snaps back into focus. The Crisco worker you spoke to before is now looming over you, his pleasant expression gone. His eyes are narrowed and he rests a hand on your shoulder, the grip firm and impersonal. Look, I don't know what game you're playing, he says, his voice a low, urgent rumble. This isn't a joke. These people, they're in withdrawal. They're sick. You're either here to help or you're in the way. So pick an identity and get to work, or get out. We have protocols. Behind him, the man who had collapsed is now being dragged, more than helped, toward a graffiti-covered door on the west side of the street. You pick 6 Youth Pastor in Temptation. As you mentally input your selection, the world does not respond with text. Instead, the man's grip on your shoulder tightens, his knuckles white against the fabric of your dress uniform. His face, which had been merely stern, now darkens into a mask of weary anger. Pastor, he repeats, the word tasting like something foul in his mouth. In temptation, Hugh. He lets go of you, shoving you slightly backwards with an open palm. Maybe there's a mud for people who want to larp their way through salvation. This isn't it. My name's Miller. These are the vines. People get hooked on this stuff, and we have to peel them off the pavement when it goes bad. He gestures at the hollowed-out figure shuffling past. So you can either be useful and start praying or ministering or whatever it is you do, or you can stand there being clever and watch him fall apart. Your call, Pastor. The disdain is palpable, a physical force pushing against you. Another one of the polo-shirted men walks by, guiding a young woman whose hands tremble uncontrollably. She keeps stuffing them into the pockets of her hoodie, only to pull them out again a second later. Another wave too just dropped on Highland. The new arrival says to Miller without preamble, 17 in the group. Pretty bad batch. Miller sighs, running a hand over his short cropped hair. Take them to room 12. Get them a silver dosage. See if they can be stabilized. He turns back to you, all traces of sympathy gone. I'm busy. He sighed. Now, he jabs a finger toward the other curb and turns and strides away, disappearing through the same graffiti-covered door the collapsed man was taken into. You use your peer specialist in harm reduction, cap, and chat up a bloke. The world obliges your mental command in the most direct, tactile way possible. When you reach up to adjust your imaginary cap, your fingers meet nothing but air and a humid lap breeze. Nothing changes. The bloke you've targeted, a thin man crouched against the brickwork with a ratty Joy Division shirt, doesn't even register your presence. He is entirely focused on a small silver-colored patch he holds between two trembling fingers, turning it over and over as if reading ancient scripture. The electric scent in the air seems to emanate from him, a faint crackle accompanying his every breath. You clear your throat, adopting a friendly, neutral tone. Hey there, friend. Rough day? You squat down a few feet away, trying to seem non-threatening. The man's head snaps up, his eyes wide and bloodshot, darting around wildly before fixing on you. His pupils are dilated, huge black pools that consume the watery blue of his irises. He scrambles backward, pressing himself harder against the wall, the silver patch clenched in a white-knuckled fist. Get away, he hisses, his voice a dry scrape. You're a shepherd. I can smell the cheap cologne and self-righteousness. You're no peer. You're just another wolf trying to make sure we die in the pen. He spits on the ground next to your shoe and frantically fumbles with the patch, trying to press it to the skin. You help him with a patch and share a story about yourself. One that puts you in a humiliating yet frank anecdote about sexuality, very earthy and gritty. Before you can even finish your thought about sharing a gritty story, a harsh, light-filled shock jolts through your arm. It's not gentle. The silver patch in the man's hand seems to leap from his grip and slap onto the bare skin of your wrist, the tiny electrodes biting into you with a sharp, electric sting. A cacophony erupts in your mind, not with words, but with raw sensory feed. The overwhelming purple flash of a nightclub, the unbearable thump of a bass line in your chest, the synthetic sweetness of a pill dissolving on your tongue, and the messy, desperate feeling of a stranger's breath on your neck. For a split second, it feels like you're drowning in someone else's pleasure. An ounce-soaked tidal wave of pure sensation, a vivid memory of an orgasm behind a club's dumpster that feels simultaneously alien and deeply, shamefully your own. The man, whose name you learn in that flash is Mateo, gasps as the jolt passes through him and into you. The desperate tension in his shoulders eases slightly. Shit, he whispers, sagging back against the brick. You took the feed. He stares at you. the wild panic in his eyes replaced by a confused, startling clarity. You are stunned, your mind reeling from the vivid, technicolor humiliation that just washed over you. Your mouth opens to form the lie, the rehearsed anecdote you intended to tell, but the words evaporate. Your personal pieties feel like cheap plaster, and this raw, electric truth has just punched a hole straight through them. You felt it, Mateo says, not a question, but a statement of fact. He's not looking at you with pity or judgment, but with a flicker of kinship. In that shared, electrified moment, your carefully constructed archetype crumbles, leaving nothing but the humiliating truth of the memory you just stole. You say, oh, it's gonna be like Sensei. Okay. Tell me about the other 7. Like sense. What? Mateo looks at you, head cocked, confusion erasing the brief kinship you shared. The name doesn't register, a pop culture artifact from a world he no longer inhabits. He glances down at the patch on your wrist, then back at the growing crowds of huddled, twitching people, a new urgency in his movements. Forget 7, there are thousands. They call this the purple haze, the feedback loop, the vines. You don't get assigned to a little cluster, you're just dropped into the ocean of it all. He fumbles in his pocket, pulling out a small, rectangular device that looks like a garage door opener with a dial on the side. The device hums in his palm, and the patch on your wrist warms slightly. In the corner of your eye, ghostly flickers of images begin to overlap your vision of the dirty street. You see flashes of a cramped apartment with overflowing ashtrays, the desperate face of a woman weeping in a shower, the dizzying sight of seeing through someone else's eyes as they run through a neon-lit arcade. It's a chaotic, disjointed feat of humanity's most desperate moments. Most shepherds, that's you guys, use their suppressors to block it all out. Mateo whispers, thumbing the dial. They dose them, get them stable, try to break the loop. They don't plug in. He looks you dead in the eye, his own pupils impossibly wide. You just walked in off the street and took a full hit. You didn't suppress. Who the hell had parked you? You say I'm the one who identified despite Crisco popping up across the Southland. Some animal is blending hints of GHB into Crisco tubs. The name you drop, Crisco, makes no sense here, not in this digital wasteland of silver patches and electric feedback. Mateo just blinks at you, the faint humming from the device in his hand the only sound between you for a moment. Crisco? He finally asks a slow, wary dawning in his bloodshot eyes. Like the stuff for baking. What does that have to do with the loop? He dismisses your statement with a quick shake of his head, unable to connect your gritty, grounded warning to the glowing, ethereal misery surrounding you. Man, whatever you're on, it's not this. We're talking pure silver data streamed straight to the cortex. No grease needed. He sees your incomprehension as ignorance, not undercover malice, and it makes him momentarily more open. Before he can continue, another wave of images floods your patch-fed vision. The scene that washes over you is different from the chaotic clips from before. It's a memory, crystal clear. You see Miller, the polo-shirted worker from the entrance, standing in a stark white room that smells of bleach. He is holding one of the silver patch applicators, speaking to a group of new shepherd recruits in a monitor. The goal is stabilization. You hear Miller's flat voice say, as if from a great distance. Too much incoming data and the synapse pathways degrade. Your suppressor tech keeps you insulated. Full immersion, unshielded, will cause a fracturing of the personality within 72 hours. You must remain a shepherd, not another lost sheep. The vision dissolves, leaving you staring at Mateo's questioning face, the secret knowledge of Miller's sermon burning in your mind. You're no longer just an outsider. You're carrying a piece of this world's forbidden instruction manual. Location: Hollywood Alley.
Oops, that's supposed to be my action. Oh well.
You say, knock on the doors of the rancid bungalows. See if anyone will take in a stranger from the rain. Hold your Bible underneath your trench coat. Your words, a strange mix of streetwise grit and bizarre domesticity, hang in the smoky air. Mateo just stares, bewildered. Bungalows? Rain? Bro, we're in Hollywood. You talking about places to crash or giving me a cookbook recipe? He pulls the small humming device closer to his chest, shielding it as if your bizarre comment might somehow infect it. Before he can dismiss you entirely, you're already moving, turning your back on the confused feed addict and striding across the street. Miller's dismissal rings in your ears. East side. Now. And a contrarian instinct takes hold. You approach a small, stucco duplex that looks like it hasn't been touched since the 70s, its paint flaking to reveal a dusty pink underneath. There's no doorbell, only a grimy brass knob. With your free hand, the one without the buzzing patch, you make a subtle motion toward your midsection, miming the shape of a book beneath an imaginary coat. It's a useless gesture, a performative take from a different role, but it grounds you. As your knuckles rap against the wood, the patch on your wrist flares with a sudden, focused feed. You don't see chaotic strangers this time, but a single, looping memory. The door swinging inward, and a woman with tears cutting clean tracks through the dust on her face, handing a small, crying child over to Miller. You wander about and then type help attributes. Help attributes. Physique. Your physical strength and endurance determines your ability to overpower or resist physical force. Skill. Your proficiency with technology and subterfuge determines your effectiveness with advanced equipment and your ability to navigate the city's systems. Spirituality, your force of will and resilience, determines your resistance to the disorienting effects of divines and your ability to influence others. Charisma, your ability to persuade and lead, determines your success in rallying followers, calming panicked individuals, and deceiving adversaries. Current user, you've passed your temptation physique. 7 skill, 5 spirituality, 4 charisma, 6. The text materializes in your mind's eye, overlaying the grimy concrete in front of you with a stark blue glow. The numbers feel less like a diagnosis and more like a verdict. Your low spirituality explains the maelstrom of foreign memory and sensation that the patch is pumping directly into your cortex. You haven't suppressed it. You're absorbing it. The high charisma gives a sliver of an explanation for Mateo's fleeting moment of connection, but your average skill and low physique leave you feeling vulnerable on this hostile street. As the blue text fades, you become aware of someone standing directly in front of you. You check him out and say, yo. The word yo hangs awkwardly in the air. An artifact from a different street corner, a different life. The man in front of you doesn't react with the hardened swagger you might expect. Instead, he flinches, a slight but noticeable recoil, as if you've thrown something at him. He is perhaps in his late 20s, wearing the same crisp white polo shirt as Miller, though this one is untucked and stained with a dark, coffee-like ring near the head. His face is pale and sallow, with dark circles etched beneath his eyes. But it's not his exhaustion that's most striking. It's the slight, perpetual tremor in his hands, the same shudder you saw in the woman being guided by Miller. Sorry, he whispers, his gaze darting past you to the crowds on the west side of the street and back to the ground. Did Miller send you over here? I was supposed to be on rotation. He shifts his weight, restless, and clutches a silver patch applicator in one trembling hand, the device looking more like a medical implant than a tool of the trade. I'm Gary. I just need a minute. His fingers twitch, and for a brief second, you feel a phantom itch on your own wrist, an echo of the silver patch still adhere to your skin. You notice the Huncho magazine emerging from his coat. Regale them with a funny anecdote about your former stash of porno. Your anecdote, meant to be a charming, self-deprecating tale of youthful folly, dies in your throat. Gary doesn't hear a joke. He sees something else. The corner of the Huncho magazine poking from his jacket, that flash of printed male flesh, becomes the focal point of the universe for you both. As you speak, your words snag on the raw, exposed nerve of your audience. The silver patch on your wrist pulses, and the feed it sends you is no longer a chaotic montage. It is a pinpoint, laser-focused projection of Gary's private chain looping over and over. You feel the sickening heat of a public bathroom stall, the crinkle of plastic wrap being torn off a magazine that is not asterisk concho, but something similar, something hidden. You feel the desperate, rapid pulse in his own wrist, the overwhelming tide of lust that is immediately followed by a crushing, soul deep wave of self-loathing so potent it makes you physically nauseous. Don't. Gary chokes up, stumbling back a step. His face has gone chalk white. He rips the magazine from his jacket, not to show it, but to crumple into a tight, sweating ball in his fist. The shame pouring from him is a tangible force, a bitter, icy current that stinks of stale incense and chlorine. You flash your issue of International Male Swimwear Catalog. International mail, not for consumption by repressively depressed and dehydrated too. 5D body shaper, but essential for aesthetic advancement in select XK circles, worsen as a social commodity to show how hard you're fighting it to attract potential rich donors who fund half the prayer brunches. The thing is thin, and your nervous tremor gives it away as the thin, glossy catalog materializes in your trembling hands. It doesn't feel like a provocation. It feels like an offering. The scent of high-gloss paper and expensive cologne sample cuts through the grime, a clean, artificial breeze. For a frozen moment, Gary doesn't recoil. His wild, bloodshot eyes lock onto the cover on a man with impossibly sculpted abs leaning against the mast of a sailboat. The desperate shame you felt from him before shifts, mutating into something raw and ravenous. The feed from your own patch goes white hot, a silent scream in your cortex that you recognize instantly as pure, weaponized longing. It's the inverse of a memory. It's a desperate prayer for a future that can't exist. That 1 second of raw, unfiltered envy is all it takes. Gary shatters. His veneer of quiet obedience cracks. You think this is funny? He snarls, the words tearing out of him. You say only a tiny bit, but that's because I see myself in this. You don't see shit, Gary snarls, taking a staggering step forward. The quiet desperation on his face has curdled into a feral, protective anger. He's not fighting you anymore. He's fighting what the International Mail Catalog represents, what the silver patch in your own wrist keeps amplifying from him. A lifetime of whispered prayers in empty rooms. A war against an enemy he sees reflected in the glossy pages. He swipes the catalog from your hands with a speed that belies his tremor, the thin pages crinkling in his grip. This is a poison. We are fighting a poison. He rips the magazine down the spine. The sound is shockingly loud in the tense alley, a violent tear of paper and possibility. He doesn't stop there, shredding it again and again. The glossy images of sculpted torsos and sun-drenched beaches raining down around your feet like confetti at a wake. We're trying to save them, he gasps, pointing a trembling finger at the hollowed-out figures across the street. And you bring this to me? With a final, convulsive effort, he throws the handful of shredded confetti into your face. The pages flutter against your skin, a mock flutter of dead leaves. Go to hell. Without another word, he turns and disappears through the same graffiti-covered door Miller used earlier, leaving you alone on the sidewalk amid the ruins of impossibly perfect men. The alley is suddenly oppressively quiet. Gary's outburst has drawn a few stares from the shuffling figures on the sidewalk, but they quickly lose interest, their focus returning to their own internal maelstroms. You were left standing in a small, sad snowstorm of glossy paper. The shredded pages of the International Mail Catalog swirl around your ankles. A single photo of a smiling man in a white speedo coming to rest against your shoe. As you look down, the silver patch on your wrist offers its opinion on the scene. A wave of crushing, hollow loneliness, the feeling of being the only person awake in a world of sleepwalkers. It's not your emotion, it's the street. A pale, fragile arm extends from the doorway next to you, and a hand with long, chipped purple fingernails plucks the spread of photo from the ground. Its owner doesn't emerge, content to simply snatch the piece of paper back into the shadows. Location: Hollywood Alley. You say, enter St. Payne's Hotel. Location: the Peacock. You walk towards the grimy door, assuming it must be the one Gary and Miller use. But as you pass a narrow, shadowed alcove between two buildings, the words St. Haynes Hotel catch your eye, painted in faded gold leaf over a much older, grander entrance that has been bricked up save for the single, seemingly modern door. It stands ajar, offering not the light of a lobby but a wall of deep purple velveteen inside smelling of dust, mothballs, and something sickly sweet like forgotten wine. You push the door open and step into what can only be described as a grand interior of a forgotten era. A massive, though threadbare, velvet curtain is drawn across a vast space, muffling all sound from beyond. That only light comes from a single chandelier hanging askew overhead, its few remaining candles casting long, dancing shadows. Standing center in the gloom is a woman, her back to you, wearing an enormous, feathered purple gown that seems to both swallow and amplify the meager light. She doesn't turn, but you feel her attention shift to you, a palpable weight in the still air. The silver patch on your wrist tingles, a faint, humming echo of an old stage musical you can't quite place, a feeling of longing for a spotlight you never knew you wanted. You learn to date yourself for a year. The woman in the feathered gown tilts her head just so, a gesture that seems both rehearsed and utterly spontaneous. She turns slowly, not her whole body, but just her head, and the chandelier light catches the sharp angles of her cheekbones and the glitter on her eyelids. She embraces you, her gaze lingering on the silver patch on your wrist, then on the crumpled poncho magazine now barely visible peeking from your own pocket. A smile plays on her lips, small and knowing. Date yourself for a year, she repeats, her voice a husky, theatrical whisper that seems to echo in a cavernous space despite its softness. My, what a quaint and revolutionary little thought. A sabbatical from the hunt. She takes a step, the fabric of her gown rustling like dead leaves. But one doesn't simply decide to do that here. A year in this place. You learn more about yourself than you ever bargained for. She raises a single, impeccably manicured hand, pointing not at you, but at the vast velvet curtain behind her. The real question is, darling, do you have what it takes to have a starring role in your own tragedy? Or are you just another extra in the crowd scene? You shout, directed by Chai Chai Laru, the only one qualified for the tale. The name you shout, Chai Chai Laru, hits the woman not as a reference, but as a detonation. The knowing smile on her face vanishes, replaced by a flash of genuine, unfiltered fury that makes her seem suddenly sharp and dangerous. Like a shattered face, her theatrical poise evaporates, and for a heart-stopping second, the air crackles with an energy far more potent than the low hum from your patch. That name, she hisses, taking a sharp step forward, the hem of her gown sweeping the dusty floor, is a curse in this house. You speak of a vandal, a common pornographer who built a cage and called it a stage. She gestures violently toward the curtain expanse, her movements no longer graceful, but sharp, angry. What goes on behind that velvet is not mere performance. It's history, it's memory, it's asterisk, sinew or asterisk. Laura would strip it all away for a climax and a pechic. We don't direct here. We curate. We preserve what the world tries to erase. We give sanctuary to the stories the shepherds want to burn. Her glare locks onto you, seeing you not as an agent of Exodus, but as a fool wielding the name of a cultural enemy. If you want cheap thrills, go back to the street and buy a patch. If you want to bear witness, you will learn respect. You yell you clearly have never been to Palm Springs. Palm Springs. For you, the name conjures specific sun-drenched memories. Pastel color patio furniture, the clinking of ice in highball glasses, the easy, amiable laughter over shared cigarettes, each inhaled feeling as much a statement as a prayer against the oppressive humidity. That name you yell into the velvet-dusted dark is an artifact from that world, a talisman of a simpler, more brazenly confident era of sin. But here, in this place, it means something else entirely. The woman's rage doesn't abate, it transforms. The theatrical fury collapses into a look of profound, ancient pity, and a quiet, chilling sadness fills the space she had occupied. She doesn't retreat, but seems to deflate. The magnificent feathered gown now a heavy shroud. We have all been to Palm Springs, little bird, she whispers, her voice now devoid of its husky performance, cracking with an unspoken history. We are all still there. It is the last stop before the desert claims you. With a surprising flick of her wrist, she throws the vast velvet curtain aside. There is no stage, no runway, no bar. It is an operating theater, or what's left of one. Dusty hospital beds are arranged in neat, silent rows. In the center, under a solitary, buzzing spotlight, is a single operating table. Yes, but have you been to Granite City? The name Granite City passes your lips, meant as another playful jab, another geographic jest from a playbook that no longer applies. But in this room, under the sterile light of the single spotlight, the words land with the weight of a fallen tombstone. All the air seems to leave the woman's body, her theatrical defiance, her anger, her pity. It all dissolves, leaving behind a face carved from pure exhaustion, weathered by a grief so vast it no longer even has a name. A chill devoid of any sensual or electric charge emanates from the woman. Your silver pack, which has been a constant tingling presence, goes utterly, terrifyingly cold on your wrist, a sudden void where the chaotic feed once was. Go, she says, her voice barely a whisper, yet it fills the vast, dreadful space. You have said your piece. You are an open wound, bleeding places into this room that do not belong here. This is a place of endings, not a map for your wandering tongue. Go. She points a single, trembling finger, not back at the front door, but towards a plain black door you didn't notice, tucked away in a dark corner of the room. It leads deeper into the hotel, into God knows what. Your words, a silly throwaway line, have somehow violated the sanctity of this place more profoundly than any taunt or name. You say go to the front table and check into this flea bag of an SRO. Location, the Peacock. The sound of your own words, confident and cynical, feels obscene in the funerary silence of the room. Front table. The very idea feels like a bludgeon. There is no table. There is no check-in. There is only the woman and the curtain theater events and the black door in the corner leading onward. She doesn't speak again. Her silence is her judgment, a heavier, more final thing than her anger had been. She simply turns her back on you, a slow, deliberate rotation of her feathered gown, and faces the spotlight once more. It's a dismissal so absolute it creates its own gravity. The very air in the room seems to press in on you, urging you toward the path she has chosen for you. The black door in the corner is no longer an option. It is your only exit. Your own words have condemned you to this path, checking you out of any future in this room and checking you deeper into the hotel's dark heart. The handle of the black door is cold, and it turns with a whisper that sounds disturbingly like the woman's final, weary utterance. This is a place of endings. You shout, my, what luck. I always love a warm hand on my opening. Your shout, a vulgar echo from a world of bathhouse bravado, doesn't land. It doesn't even make it across the room. The words seem to collide with an invisible wall of profound sorrow emanating from the woman. They evaporate into a choked silence. The only response is the solid, undeniable click of the black door closing behind you, locking you in the passage beyond. You are in a narrow, unlit corridor that feels more like a ventilation shaft than a hallway. The air is stale, heavy with the scent of old dust and decaying drywall, thick enough to coat your tongue. The silver patch on your wrist, your only unreliable light source in this absolute darkness, gives one final, weak pulse of information, a ghost image of a hallway filled with flickering fluorescent lights and endless numbered doors. Then it goes completely dead, a smooth, inert piece of metal against your skin. You are plunged into absolute, sensory-depriving darkness. The only sounds the frantic, useless beating of your own heart and the distant, muffled throb of a bass line that might be a club or might just be the blood rushing to your head. Your bravado has left you truly, utterly blind. Location, corridor.
Oh. Wait, hold on. No. I don't want to say cruise, I want to do cruise.
You take a tentative step forward.
There we go. A couple more turns, and then I gotta resume. I gotta finish up this shave job.
You cruise. The word is an instinct, a primal survival tactic from a dim, neon-lit past. You cruise. Your movements, deprived of sight, become a study in touch and sound. Your hands trail along the rough, unfinished walls of the corridor, the texture catching on your fingertips. The silence in this section is absolute, a heavy muffling blanket that smothered your parting shot. You take slow, deliberate steps forward, the soft scuff of your shoes on the gritty floor, the only percussive element in your personal symphony of exploration. You reach a corner and turn, your outstretched hand suddenly sliding into empty space. Another hallway intersects this one, running perpendicular. From this new direction, a faint change seeps into your self-contained bubble of darkness. A soft, rhythmic beeping, like a single, insistent heartbeat from a piece of forgotten medical equipment, and beneath it, the even softer, nearly subliminal suggestion of a warm light source. Location, crossroads. You meet eyes with Jesus, ask him, how's your walk with me? You shuffle forward, drawn by the promise of light, your hands now guiding you along the smoother walls of the adjoining corridor. Your blind navigation leads you to the source. The beeping is louder here, emanating from a small, empty room carved into the wall. In the center of the space stands alone, compute the monitor, its screen glowing with a soft, sickly amber light. Upon the screen, rendered in shimmering pixels, is a face. It is meant to be a portrait of divinity, but it is nothing more than a crude collage. A stock photo of a smiling model with gentle brown eyes superimposed over a JPEG of a bleeding heart, ringed with thorns, all awkwardly set against a fiery, celestial backdrop. This is the savior of this digital pit stop. Your idle question hangs in the dead air, an arrow shot into the infinite. There is a pause, a full 3 seconds of humming processor noise and the incessant beeping. Then, a line of amber text materializes beneath the glitchy icon. Command not recognized. Please state your purpose. Location, server room. You either good old binaries, pictures, mail. A shudder runs through the system. The amber command line on the monitor flickers violently, and for a moment, the crude face of the digital Jesus is replaced by a fast-scrolling waterfall of alphanumeric garbage. The single, insistent beat flatlines into a solid, monotonous tone. The system is actively resisting you, trying to parse your obscure command. Then, with a final electronic gasp, the scrolling stops. The monitor goes black. The silence in the room is suddenly deeper, more profound without the beeping. After a long beat, a new image slowly resolves on the screen, layer by painful layer. It's not a single photograph. It is a collision, a corrupt data funeral. You can make out the torso from a glossy underwear ad, the head of a laughing man from a party photo, the muscular leg of a dancer, all bleeding into one another in a chaotic, beautiful mess of pixels. There are no clean edges, no subjects, only fragments of male forms, a desperate digital artifact of what was shared and hunted and seen in those long dead binary news groups.
Yeah, there you go.
This is what's left of the archive. This is what's left of desire. It's not an answer, it's an exhibit. Location, server room.
Okay, this is an early set of memories for me. It's like the day, the 6 hours I spent researching how to get porn from the internet.
You saved Jeff Stryker's photo into your temp folder. Your command, a nostalgic power move from a forgotten era, echoes in the digital quiet. The monitor screen freezes. The corrupted collage of bodies held in place like a fly in amber.
Just one day.
Progress bar, stark and simple, appears at the bottom of the screen, but it doesn't fill from left to right. It flashes a single, demonic red, and in the center, one word appears: denied. There is a whirring sound from the tower case next to the monitor, the grind of a fan trying to cool a system under immense stress. The temp folder, that fleeting digital limbo, is protected. This system may be a ruin, but its foundations have firewalls. Then the screen changes again, more drastically this time. The corrupted male forms vanish, replaced by the same crude, smiling face of the digital Jesus from before. He's back, and he looks disapproving. Beneath the icon, new amber text replaces the denial message. Thou shalt not steal images that are not easily obtainable from the mainstream public domain. One must always check websites or detailed sources, but for a good example of who to look for that is current, suggested currently, Martin Sanchez. Location, server room. You slap the 14 4 kbps modem. The slap is loud, a sharp crack against the old plastic case of the 14 4 kbps modem. For a glorious, violent second, it seems to work. The screen of Jesus flashes, and the image of Martin Sanchez, the current suggested subject, resolves into a single, high-definition frame for a fleeting instant. A young, smiling actor in a press junket photo, bright teeth and blinding white background. Then the reality of hardware abuse takes over. The high-res image dissolves into a catastrophic shower of digital snow, a blizzard of static and dying pixels. The digital Jesus icon itself warps and stretches, features melting like candle wax before vanishing entirely. With a final, pathetic pop, the monitor goes black, and the entire system dies. The only light and sound in the room are now gone, leaving you in a oppressive dark once more. The only hint of your presence is the faint, lingering warmth of the CRT screen against your fingertips and the hollow memory of a half-saved image of a man you've never met. Location: server room. You save game, collect XP, GP, and skill points. In the sudden, total darkness of the dead server room, your command is a desperate prayer to a god who has just left the building. There is no interface to respond, no cheerful chime of progress saved. Instead, the reality of the situation crashes down on you. The XP you've earned isn't a number, it's the ghost image of the weeping woman from the bungalow feet, the sting of Mateo's electric jolt, the pity in Gary's sunken eyes. The GP you've collected isn't gold, it's the weight of the crumpled honcho in your pocket, and the bitter taste of old smoke in the back of your throat. You fumble in the pitch black, your hands finding the smooth, inert surface of the dead monitor, trying to coax one last spark of light from it. But there is nothing. Your only choice is to remember the way you came, your hands outstretched into the oppressive, tactile darkness. The adventure hasn't paused, you've just been disconnected. Location: server room.
Oh, okay, okay. No skills? Okay, what was the last one? Help, type help, type help for... Oh! Last thing so that we can complete the instruction manual. There better not be such a... That's the module list, right? Gotta hit it.
You type help commands. The command appears in the theater of your mind, not on the dead screen, a blue glowing text box that floats in the absolute darkness of the room you now inhabit. Location: server room. List of available commands. Talk target. Initiate dialogue with a person. Will not work on computers that have been slapped. Get object. Pick up an object. Use object on target. Use an item on a person or object. Go direction. Move in a cardinal direction or through a specified exit. Examine object/target. Look more closely at a person or thing. Wait. Passes a short period of time. The text flickers and holds a single source of light and information in the profound dark. It offers a blueprint for action, a semblance of control in a situation that has spiraled far beyond any game you've ever played. Yet, as the glowing list of commands floats before your closed eyes, the world around you remains stubbornly inert. There is no keyboard, no prompt waiting for your input, only the chilling realization that these commands are, for someone else, for a player in a different game entirely. You are in the server room, and the server is dead. Location: server room. You roll eyes. The roll of your eyes is a purely physical act, a gesture of weary condescension in the suffocating dark. It changes nothing. There is no one to see it, no system to register it.
For you,
It is
the
just
viewer.
a slight adjustment of your muscles in an abyss. But the act itself does generate a microscopic change in the environment. The faint, lingering warmth of the dead CRT screen seems to dissipate more quickly, as if your dismissive gesture has somehow hastened its final cooling. You are left with nothing but the tactile memory of your hands exploring the cold plastic casing and the hum of absolute silence that comes when all the fans have stopped spinning. Your only option, as dictated by the simple rules you now understand, is to go. But where? Back through the unlit crossroads, toward the woman in the feathered gown and her theater of endings. Or perhaps in this blacked-out room there is another exit you missed, one that your useless slap did not reveal. Location: server room.
Okay. I'm heading out now. I'm heading to shave the rest of my head. Yeah, that's it. That was fun.